thank you for our health and ask that you look after those that are not so fortunate. We especially pray with you for those that serve us and keep us safe here and abroad. For it is in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Marie, please call the roll.
Councilmember Bergworth.
Here.
Councilmember Battelli.
Here.
Councilmember Buchanan.
He's on holiday.
Councilmember Carroll.
I am here, not on holiday.
Hard to tell.
Councilmember Friend.
Here.
Councilmember Harrington.
Here.
Councilmember Loftus.
Yo.
Councilmember Ward.
Here.
Mayor Cronin.
Present.
Administrator Tucker.
And I am here where every day on Isle of Palms.
And Attorney Halverson here.
They're selling at every turn. I noticed that. No end to that. All right, moving on, reading a journal of previous meeting minutes. You have your February 24th meeting minutes, all how many pages? 16 pages.
So moved.
Moved to approve, moved and seconded to approve. Any discussion, correction? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries, unanimous. Now we're up to a special presentation. Norm and Jean is quick to the podium.
Absolutely. Anytime there's an audience and a microphone, just count me in, will you?
Don't get in the way, right?
Yeah. Well, tonight I have someone special to recognize, but I'm going to give you a little bit of background. Back in 1956, when some of us were a lot, or all of us were a lot younger, some of you were probably not even a twinkle in your parents' eyes, but this family from Hungary came over to the United States and lived in the New Hampshire area. The gentleman I'm going to tell you about tonight served in Vietnam from 1967 to 1970. He worked on aircraft carriers. He's been a maintenance manager, service tech, gym service technician. And he and his wife had visited this area many times and finally decided to locate to the Isle of Palms. I'm not sure if they came in the end of 2006 or right at 2007, but right in that ballpark. After they got here, they noticed there was a job opening at the Recreation Center for Parks and Grounds Maintenance Supervisor. And the story goes that Nick decided he was going to apply for it, and his wife said, "There ain't no way you're going to get that job." And so Nick, said, "I'm going for an interview," and came for an interview and went home and he went, "I got the job." And so his wife, Deb, could hardly believe that. But Nick is going to be retiring, and he deserves it. He's worked hard. Just go to the recreation department, look at the grounds. When I hired him, I gave him a job description, but then I took him outside and I said, "Here's your job. I want this place to look this good or even better." And for 8 years now, he has not disappointed me. The city has definitely gotten their money's worth with Nick. He doesn't waste a minute. In fact, it's frustrating in the summer because I have to make him take a break, come in and cool off. In the wintertime, when it's below freezing, when we're all huddled in our offices around little portable heaters, I have to make him come in and warm up. But what a hard-working man, and he's done an outstanding job. The one thing that I learned about Nick really, really soon was that if I wanted a job done, I would tell Nick, "Here's what I want you to do," and I kind of tell him how to do it. And I'd say, "Now tell me what I just told you." And he would tell me something, and I had no clue what he said. So I finally said, "All right, Nick, here's what I want it to look like. Here's what I want you to do." And he does it. I mean, he can do it all. He could do plumbing. He could do carpentry. He fixed the equipment, the ground. I mean, he could just do it all. He's just a jack of all trades. And what some huge shoes that we have to find somebody to fill. So I realized with retirement, I'm sure there's a honey-do list, but I do have a special presentation. Nick, if you and Deb will come up.
Before you do that, Mr. Mayor, can we make a motion? Can we make, Norma Jean, before you start, Mr. Mayor, may we make a motion to deny this retirement?
Say no, say aye.
Listen, I would be the first one to say I don't want Nick to leave. What a great employee he's been. What a great friend. And I forgot to mention middle school dances. It's not uncommon to see Nick shaking a leg out there with the young people. So we've had a lot of fun with the rec center. He just fit right in when he came on board, and what a pleasure it has been to work with you.
Thank you.
And I thank you so much. And I'm sure I didn't thank you enough or praise you enough for the work you do. But I just want you to know that I really appreciate everything you've done, the hard work. I mean, this man works so hard, and like I said, has not wasted a minute of the city's time. But I'm thinking as you retire, you're going to lose time. Do you wear a watch? I don't even know if you wear a watch.
No, I've got a cell phone
Okay.
nowadays.
I kind of figured that. So we thought in retirement you probably needed
Like old
something
watch.
to tell you what time it is. And I know you have a man cave, but it just simply says award of appreciation presented to Nicholas, which is his real name. We call him Nick, in recognition of the time, outstanding effort, and dedicated service to the City of Isle of Palms Recreation Department from March 28, 2007 to April 3rd, 2015. You will be missed.
Thank you very much. I don't really have a speech per se. I've welcomed working for the City of Isle Palms, and hopefully I've done the job well enough that meets up to standards. I say it's somewhat high at times, but I'm unsure at times. So, but I think I've done a good job. I hope I have. I try to do better. I try to always make things better for my surroundings, no matter where it's at. Hopefully, I've done some of that.
You've done a great job. Thank you.
Don't be a stranger.
That's right.
I mean,
And you can still come shake a leg at
yard sales are a big thing.
I've already offered him a part-time job.
He needs a part-time job in about 6 months.
Marty?
Mr. Mayor, since we're on employee recognitions, I would like to make a motion to reorder the agenda to move the employee recognition
Under miscellaneous.
under miscellaneous
Up to now?
Second.
Up to now.
Motion seconded. Discussion, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All right. This is an employee recognition that we've had the pleasure of reading the recommendation from Captain Ussery to the chief. Patrick's going to step forward and call Sharon forward. She's just getting off duty. Are you off? You know we're off duty.
I am.
We would like, are you coming
Yeah, I'll
on
come
in?
down with you.
We would like to join Captain Ussery and Chief Buchanan in recognizing, giving special recognition to Sergeant Sharon Baldrick for accomplishing a recent certification to be a drug recognition evaluator. And this recent accomplishment to be added to her numerous special certifications that she's accumulated over the past 6 years. As a DRE, these acronyms, drug recognition evaluator, she has been trained to recognize impairment in drivers beyond alcohol. There are only 150 officers out of 14,000 officers in South Carolina that have achieved this recognition. And even beyond that, Sergeant Baldrick is the only female trained in receiving this certification that's been assigned to traffic and patrol duty. It's with a great deal of pride from the Personnel Committee to recognize Sharon and congratulate you very much.
Thank you very much.
We're proud of all of our officers, but some stand brighter than others. Sharon has worked for many years to get all these certificates, and now drug recognition evaluator. Who comes up with these names? Whatever, you know. She gets called upon by Mount Pleasant and others to provide her services, right?
I do.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
not just over here.
Very good. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
She departs.
All right, we're still in back to citizens' comments. Arnold Carrick wanted to address us. Let me call upon Arnold first.
Arnold Carey, 5102 Palm Boulevard. Good evening, Mayor and members of council. Councilman Loftus has expressed his concern at several city council meetings about an increase in noise issues and how they are handled. And I feel that noise disturbances from rental properties in particular seem to be on the rise, having personally gone 4 for 4 in the month of September weekends on having to call about noise disturbances between 1 and 3 a.m. The 2015 rental season is just beginning, and I have already made my first 3 a.m. call. I firmly believe that some changes are in order, and these are changes that would not take a great deal of effort, but I think would strengthen the quiet on the island. It has been stated that call volume is down, but there are a number of reasons that may happen, but probably one of the bigger issues is due to people perceiving a lack of response when they call. I think one change that has probably discouraged calling is when we switch to central dispatch. And so I would recommend that the city consider doing a newsletter about what happens when you call that livability number and how it may take several rings before someone answers, and then how you get transferred to central dispatch. So a little bit more cumbersome. Also, I think it would be helpful if the city would detail how citizens can follow up on what action was taken in response to their call. I know in past years I've been asked if I want the officer to stop by. Well, at 3 a.m. in the morning, it's not particularly convenient. So if there's a way I can follow up the next morning, it certainly would be appreciated. I think prevention is a key issue when it comes to noise. And I believe that with very little effort, very little additional effort, rental management companies could have a very positive impact on prevention. Stronger emphasis when rental contracts are signed, I think, is one possible step. And also, I would give my opinion that posting of only one sign per rental unit is inadequate. Finally, I think from what I've heard discussed at council meeting, how noise complaints are handled by our police force is in order. A review of that to ensure that the best practices for all concerned are being used. And they may be, but I think a review would be in order. And the 2015 peak rental season's right around the corner. So I would hope some action can be taken to keep our island peaceful and quiet. Thank you.
Thank you. Very well.
Dr. Carrick, would you mind leaving us a copy of your comments?
Leaving with Marie.
Yeah, leave them with Marie.
Can she read your writing?
Probably not.
Doctor, so. Thank you so much.
Probably better than what we give her. Thank you very much. Anyone else wish to address council at this time? Okay.
You may want to stress.
You got someone in the back?
Yeah, and you may want
Oh,
to stress
please
if they
come
want to talk about the Morgan Creek Grill noise, now is the time, not to
Right.
wait until we get to that on the agenda.
Yes.
Please.
I'm Patsy Heineman. I live at 7 Barnacle Road, and this is my second time speaking about this issue. The first time I spoke before the Public Safety Committee meeting, but I thought y'all should hear what I think about it too. I'm here to speak in favor of Morgan Creek Grill and allowing them to continue with at least some amplified music. It's a wonderful place. They have to be doing something right because if you recall, quite a few restaurants in that same wonderful location didn't survive. They were there for a while, they went out of business. I don't recall any of them having any music at all. Maybe that's why they didn't make it. I only went there once or twice. They weren't very good. Morgan Creek Grill has been there for a long time. They're doing an excellent job. Among other things, it's the only public place on the island where we can go and enjoy views of the Intercoastal Waterway. So that alone is a good reason for keeping them there and keeping them in business. It's also nice because I can go there and young families can go there and we're not listening to hard rock. Hard rock can get kind of noisy. And I might add that Morgan Creek Grill is not contributing to the noise at 1 or 3 o'clock in the morning because they're quiet way before then and always have been. It's not a singles bar. I like that. I'm not looking for a singles bar. It's a place where I can go and listen and enjoy the evening without paying a cover charge. So I think there are a lot of reasons. I could go on and on, but I won't. But they're doing a good job. They're an asset for the island, and I'd like to see them stay in business. I think that if you put an absolute ban on absolutely no amplified music, I think that's unreasonable and overreach. Surely you can understand if you have a huge band with, 10 pieces, and you amplify that with lots of drums and everything, you could get a lot of noise out of it. I've never seen that kind of band or performer there at Morgan Creek Grill. Normally what I've seen are single or 1 or 2 people in the act playing a guitar. It's quite likely you wouldn't even hear them at all across the other side of the restaurant if there wasn't some amplification. So I'd like you to think about that. I do think decibel level is important. And at one time I heard, I think Mr. Clark had offered to purchase at his own expense decibel meters to give to the police so that when they have a call about noise, they could go to the location and have an objective way to determine, is there really a lot of noise here, or is it what you might call a nuisance complaint? And I do think there are some of those. What I heard at the other meeting is that they've had people call the restaurant and say, please, you've got to cut down the noise, and they didn't even have anybody performing. Because music could be coming from lots of other locations and not just Morgan Creek Grill. Somebody out on a nice boat with their radio cranked up could generate a lot of music as well. Perhaps not amplified, but still loud. Another concern I have is the precedent that this might set for other Isle of Palms businesses. There are houses built fairly recently, fairly close to some of the establishments on Front Beach that have been there a long time. If you listen to the complaints from a few people who don't like Morgan Creek Grill, what happens when those people start complaining about the Windjammer or the one that's upstairs? I forgot the name of it. But I think that you would be setting a precedent to tell them no amplified music. And pretty soon you're kind of shutting down places all over the island. And what funds are going to be for people to come here? You know, you can only play so much tennis and so much golf and spend so much time on the beach. It's nice to have a place on the island that you can go to. I particularly like that it's close to where I live so that I don't have to deal with Front Beach if I want to go out for the evening and try to, even if I wanted to be with the people in the singles bars, I don't want to have to deal with the parking and all the congestion. I like it being close to me so I can go there. As I said, I do think decibels matter. And something that concerned me, several people mentioned that at the Public Safety Committee meeting. One of the people who's been complaining stood up and said, and this, the more I thought about it when I got home, the more disturbed I was. His statement was that the decibel level did not matter. He didn't care if 1,000 people wanted the music to continue. What mattered to him was his individual right to repose in his home. Although I respect that, what horrified me was to learn that this is someone who represents us in Columbia, an elected official. And maybe I'm still naive and from the old school, but my thought is that elected officials tried as best they could to represent the majority. We try not to harm anyone, but I'd like to think that when you're considering this, you will not be swayed by complaints from 1 or 2 rich and powerful and influential individuals, and think about kind of us common folk who enjoy going to Morgan Creek Grill.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else want to speak? Okay.
My name's Ray Gay, and I live at 6 Intracoastal Court, and I am probably, if not the closest, one of the closest residences to Morgan Creek. And I'd like to speak tonight in favor of them keeping their music program. Matter of fact, I sit on my porch and enjoy their music free. I don't have to buy anything, but I do go there. I take my children, my grandchildren there. I think it's a very nice family-oriented place. I find nothing objectionable about what they are currently doing. But my background is an engineering background, and I understand that the direction and the sound may be objectionable to people in other locations. I think that Morgan Creek has gone above and beyond the requirements or certainly the efforts of most businesses to try to accommodate their neighbors. They've had a testing program. They've come up with a solution to mitigate the noise. I think they are going the extra mile to be good neighbors and to accommodate and obey the regulations as they exist. I also have some concerns about denying them the opportunity to do that while we allow people on the front beach establishments on the front beach to do it. I do know that in the past that there's been a suit about the noise ordinance from front beach, an establishment on the front beach. And while there has been no discussion or no comments about a suit in this instance, I, for one, as a taxpayer here, I really do not want to see that happen, and I would like to ask that the council consider the possibility of that, but also, more importantly, the fairness of doing that, the unfairness of denying one establishment but allowing others. So I'm here to endorse the music program at Morgan Creek, and to particularly as it will be described, I'm sure, by their owner under their new program to mitigate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? Please.
My name is Mary Chasen. I live at 33 31st Avenue. The only thing that I really appreciate what both of y'all have said, but the one thing that came up to my mind while sitting back there was how many homeowners are there on Isle of Palms now?
4,300.
4,300. How many complaints have there been for this particular issue in number of families?
Well, I mean, you can't hear music all over the island.
No, I'm just saying that, again, we're going to let a really tiny percent of people make the rules for everyone. I sort of see this like the parking thing. A few are going to make the rules for everyone. And I don't know, I don't want this to go like it has in other places, but a man in Texas had prayer taken out of the schools of Texas, public schools, because his daughter lived in Texas. He didn't even live in Texas because he was an atheist. So that one man changed all of the public school system in Texas by taking the Pledge of Allegiance out of the schools and prayer because of his belief. And as much as I respect his belief, I just don't think that these one or two or few people should change that's been happening, and it's not offensive. Y'all have been down there on Saturday and Sunday. It's wonderful to see young couples that don't have a chance to go out many times during the week because they're young families, but they have little children, and the little children are out there, enjoying the music, and it's not offensive music, and it's just a nice, friendly family atmosphere. And I think that's what we want here on our island, to have that friendly family atmosphere. And I just hope that you would vote that within respect of sound and all of that, not to offend anybody, but not to become silent.
Thank you.
I'm not going to talk long.
Is this for a change?
Come on.
You could.
Dolly Cannon. The only thing, Everything that you said and Mary Chasen said is absolutely true. It is a wonderful place. It's been a little depressing when you go down there and there's no music. But anyway, what I was going to say is one email went out to everybody on Intracoastal Court. And a lot of my neighbors are here, and I went around, and Diane and Ray did too, and we have one from Omaha that she even came. Everybody was fine with it, except two people, okay? And one of them's related to somebody that lives on Waterway Island. So I just, want to let y'all know, our street, we're for it.
Okay. Anyone else? Last chance. All right. Thank you. We'll close citizens' comments. Move on to reports from standing committees. I have a lot of paper on the Ways and Means, but we're not going to go through it all. I know you're patient with us, but we'll get through it here relatively quickly. We heard from our treasurer on March 24th at 5:45 on Ways and Means met. We're 2/3 of the way through the year. Haven't seen that, but I guess we are. Our expenditures are running at 61% on the general fund, which of course is less than 67%, which would be 2/3. So general fund expenditures are running well. Our revenues are only at 62% of budget, and they should be at 67, and that's still 90% of prior year. The big difference there is the difference in our property tax collection. Since the February close, however, we have received the January final payment from the county under property tax collection for another $887,000, which will put us on or ahead of where we were this time last year. So property tax looks like we're going to be able to meet our budget in that regard. That's always good news, and the way the county distributes those funds and changes everything every year makes us nervous this time of year, but we'll get there. All other revenue sources are ahead of prior year. That's another good sign in all aspects of the city. When we looked at tourism funds, our municipal accommodations tax is running 6% ahead of prior year, and our hospitality tax is running 13% ahead of prior year. Again, good signs for our funds receipt. We received nothing from the state or county, but we didn't anticipate any either. In the future, we will be receiving from our treasurer a report on the beach preservation fee, which will be kept separate from all of our other tourism funds, because it is a dedicated purpose fee and can only be used on the beaches, and that will be a separate accumulation and reported accordingly. We did report that a settlement has been reached with the online travel companies. This is a class action taken by municipals within South Carolina. We will be receiving $52,000 as part of the settlement with the online travel companies for their failure to have paid appropriate municipal accommodations taxes in the past. So that's frankly good news. It's very good news and somewhat of a surprise, because these things tend to drag on forever. And our only concern is to get the online travel companies to pay accurately to the appropriate municipals in the future. But we're working on that with the Department of Revenue and others involved. So that's going to be an ongoing struggle, unfortunately. We looked at our projects. Our shoal management project is complete, and we have about $200,000 remaining in that fund, but the work has concluded, and the only thing remaining is some final engineering bills to come forward. Moving on, we considered awarding a contract to ATM for the master plan at the marina. That was well discussed by members of the committee. The vote was taken, and we voted not to award the contract at this time, but we will consider it as we proceed in our budget for fiscal year 2016. So it's still on the potential, but it is not going to happen this fiscal year. The committee heard a riveting presentation on the local option sales tax. No, not quite? Well, okay. I thought it was riveting. Local option sales tax is a sales tax that we receive distributed from the Department of Revenue, as all the municipals receive in the county. How that gets collected and then subsequently distributed to us is somewhat of a mystery. Hopefully the presentation cleared up part of that mystery. Much of it has to do with just population. It has nothing to do with the actual sales that occur on the island, although our sales are increasing. So this is an activity that's been increasing. What's important for everybody to know is we collect that sales, local option sales tax. We remit it back to all the property owners on the island as a credit in your property taxes. So the more local option sales tax that we get credited with, the more credit you receive on your property tax for the Isle of Palms. So that's basically a pass-through. So the more we understand that and the more we can generate accurate and hopefully uplifting local option sales taxes. Councilman Ward had pointed out to us earlier, we need to make sure that all of the entities reporting on the island are reporting the appropriate code when they report to the Department of Revenue. And our treasurer is working with the property management companies and others on the island to make sure that they use the appropriate code and just don't check off a box that says Charleston County. That doesn't get it to us. They need to record it as an Isle of Palms site for their business. So that's ongoing, and that will be continuing for quite a while. We went on to have discussion on budgets. We are basically a couple of months into the process of setting our FY16 budget. We heard from the staffs and the various committees. The staff was able to present to us a balanced budget at our Ways and Means Committee meeting. A balanced budget means revenue and expenses match in the general fund, which would indicate we would have no tax increase again for this current fiscal year, FY16. We did go through a lot of discussion on various elements of the budget that will be developed further. We discussed and decided that we would reinstitute, from a personnel standpoint, a cost of living adjustment that had been removed from our budgeting. We put a cost of living adjustment in for FY16 that would generate, I believe the number is 1.62% for all employees as we go forward. This will be in addition to a merit pool that is established for performance-based achievement by our employees, and the sum of those two will not exceed 5% as we develop the budget as it stands. We also decided at the Ways and Means to add a holiday. That would be, we would be adding the Christmas Eve day to the holiday schedule, which would put us at 10, which is still behind the local area. Most of the municipals and the county in the local area have at least 11 holidays, but we've added, for our budgeting purposes, a Christmas Eve day in our budget. So a lot of other items were discussed. Councilman Carroll talked about some of the thoughts he had, in particular about selling parts of the marina, which did not get support at that time. Councilman Ferenz talked about a QRV, which is a quick response vehicle for the fire department to look at our medical calls. That's something that will be ongoing within the staff and really the various committees to look and see how we can be more responsive. We are responsive for medical calls, but have less equipment involved when we do respond to them. And Councilman Buchanan was talking at the rec committee about adding some more tennis facilities and basketball courts at the rec center. So there's a lot of action ongoing within the budgeting process. We have established a date of March 13th to spend an evening together. Did I say March?
Yep. Yes.
Excuse me. April 13th.
See, we pay attention to what you're saying.
Pay attention? Okay.
We're paying attention.
All right. April 13th, we'll have a sit-down and a roundtable discussion. We call them workshops, to go through the budget in some more detail. We'll again meet on the Ways and Means Committee on the 21st, with the goal of getting a first reading on our budget on the council meeting on the 28th. First reading is just the first reading. Then we go through an advertising in the press and let the world know exactly what the details are, and then we'll get to second reading hopefully in May from there. So that was a good part of our activity. We also went on to award a sole source contract, so I'll make a motion to award a sole source contract to T2 Systems in the amount of $21,896.46 for 3 years of web hosting, permitting, and enforcement packages for our parking ticket management system. This is a 3-year contract that we pay a piece of annually.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion on the T2 system contract? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you. We also went on to approve $3,500 from the municipal accommodations fees to the purchase of a portable sound system for the rec center. I'll make that as a motion.
Second.
The sound system at the rec center has been limping along, not
That's
working at
fun.
all. And maybe we'll put Nick's name on it or something. If you attend any of our festive occasions at the rec center or Front Beach, we need a sound system. So council has made that recommendation out of Ways and Means, so I made that as a motion. We had a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you, and that was Ways and Means, only 3 hours.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
One thing I'd like to do for the people here and people out there in the internet is compliment the mayor and working closely with the city administrator and city treasurer. This $52,000 is something that Mayor Cronin has been tenacious about getting what the city deserves from our tourism funds. And if you look back at our record, we have not raised taxes in 8 years. And a big part of it is that the mayor has been able to identify opportunities and identify where we're not getting the money we should be getting from the state and from the county. And I'd just like to publicly recognize his efforts and keep up the good work.
Thank you. It's a never-ending struggle working with the Department of Revenue.
I'm glad you're on our side.
But those tourism funds are what keep Isle Palms going.
I don't want to say it keeps us afloat. That would be dangerous, but it is a major part of the city's. But it also, we spend it wisely. We spend it to support the tourism and protect the citizens and protect the tourists while they're here. So, we do it wisely. And our administrator has just, while we're on that subject, has just been appointed to the, I always get it wrong, I want to say TURC.
That's the initials. It's the State Tourism Expenditure Review Committee. I was appointed by the governor for a 4-year term on that committee, and part of that committee's duties are oversight over all of the local governments that are paying state accommodations tax or receiving state accommodations tax, and making sure that it is being spent in accordance with the law. So I've had one meeting so far, and I learned that I have to, now when I report on my ethics form, I get to report on 2 things, not one. So I've already been introduced to those responsibilities associated with the committee service.
I suspect her participation on that will open up other areas for us when we see what other people are doing, whether it be promotional initiatives or just other ways that they spend their money that we can look at too. I mean, it's an important thing, and it's important for the state. I'm glad the governor reached out to touch us.
Mr. Mayor, and the same thing as Councilman Loftus said, last year, y'all, the city, Linda, yourself, Deborah, did a breakdown on all the incomes and everything, and it was very helpful to see where all the monies came from each and every department, and where our employees are paid from, the fire department, the police department, recreation. So, I mean, those are very good tools, and again, that's hard work to y'all.
That's staff work, so they did an outstanding job, and they continue to do it. So, all right, no other comments? Let's move on to public safety, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Public Safety met a regular meeting Tuesday, March 3rd. All members were in attendance. We spent a good bit of that meeting, as you heard from the other folks that spoke in citizens' comments, talking about noise in Morgan Creek Grill and what could be done to alleviate some of that noise to perhaps continue with the music at that venue. We talked about reconfiguring and constructing it. Actually, Jay Clark talked about constructing a stage to accommodate soundproofing materials, get an appropriate amplification system that could be cut off, and there's some things that even when they reach a certain dB level, it will cut the system down and or off. And they were going to be doing some some very limited testing to establish some dB levels. And Ms. Pope explained the tent is will no longer be used. Will be if they do this, it'll be a structure that's engineered to absorb sound, in particular bass, since it's omnidirectional. Multi-layered walls. We had just a wealth of information, and applaud the efforts that have been made to date. And we also said that council will be making a final decision about whether or not the test period succeeded in mitigating the noise to the surrounding neighborhoods. We haven't had that test period now. They do have the starting points. This is a matter of quality of life for the residents, and wanted everyone to know the rules aren't going to change during the test period. And I know they're not going to blast us out either. It's going to be very cognizant of everyone. And this was a regular meeting and a special meeting. They came back with more specifics on the plan, and I need to do that now.
I do it now.
Okay. Do a little paper shuffling here. We explained that we would consider the test plan, and if approved, take it to City Council. Well, we unanimously approved the test plan in public safety and are bringing it forward to City Council. And as I explained, the baseline test would involve setting up. Renee did some testing. I drove through. I know I tried to disguise myself so you wouldn't know it was me going through.
They caught me.
They caught you. Okay. Mr. Gould is the sound engineer who will be, he did the baseline and will be doing the other testing. We indicated the testing should have some degree of measurable integrity to it, so there would be no possibility that someone might opine the results have been manipulated, which I'm sure that's not going to happen. So what you have in your packet, you have a City of Isle Palms condition for city-sponsored event for Morgan Creek Grill sound suppression test plan. Now, what Morgan Creek Grill has agreed to do is at their cost, build this soundstage, knowing full well that a lot is going to be based on the results of this trial. So you'll see there are, didn't count them before, 9 conditions set forth for them to do this test. And I would make a motion that City Council approve the test once these conditions are signed off on, and look at it as a city-sponsored event.
I'll second that for discussion purposes.
Discussion?
Motion and discussion. Okay.
We have some empty blanks here. I mean, we need to know, before we vote on this, we need to know a starting time and end time, don't we? We can't just float out there.
We do, and I was, could also make part of that motion the flexibility for the city administrator to work to fill in those dates, or Linda, have you got some ideas now?
I do, and I don't want to prolong the meeting, but for the benefit of all members of council, I think it would probably be helpful so that everyone knows what the expectations are to have Jay Clark or his designee speak to exactly if they're granted permission for this test as a city-sponsored event, if they would go through and outline what the goals are of the test period and what they're going to do to measure those goals. I know you all have that document in front of you, but I think that it would be important to hear them articulate it, and from that we should be able to gather start dates and end dates to put into the document. And you have a motion and a second on the floor, so once they're finished with that dialogue, you know, we can vote.
Who
Chair
wants to-
Carlin, which one of you is faster?
Or
on
you
your
both
feet?
can. We don't.
Tag team.
Just to start regarding the starting and testing dates, and because here we are on April 1st, finding out if you're going to give us the opportunity to do this, and the stage is not built yet. Jay's done a great deal of research. He's talked with many engineers, not just IMS and Mr. Gould, who could not be here tonight because he is still very ill. But he is very much on task. He did the testing that we did. Thank you for allowing us to do that. That same day that we presented this plan. But we have to build the stage, so it's hard for us to give you an exact date tonight of when it's going to happen. We can pull a date out of our hat and say we can do it in 2 weeks, but I won't know that, nor will Jay. So if we could have a little bit of fluidity between us and giving you an exact date of when we would start doing the actual testing with the musicians, that would be helpful. Now, as far as the end date, we actually built in a longer period than we expected, just so that we would have that safety net. So I believe it was 8 weeks. A period of 7 days stretched across a 3-week period in accordance with the plan. Again, we want it to go as quickly as we can. We want to prove to you that we can reduce the level of noise coming from Morgan Creek, the level of music, which I don't really think of as noise, coming from Morgan Creek to a satisfactory level to the neighbors around us. And we obviously, as you have seen, we have a lot of support of neighbors who come and speak. And tonight was totally unsolicited. I didn't ask anyone to come up here and speak. They are doing this of their own volition, which brought my heart to a great place to think that people really do care about what's happening. So again, as far as the start and the end time, those are things that need to be a little bit fluid, but we will give it to you as soon as we know. As soon as we know the stage is going to be ready and Renee books a group, then we're going to know that Tuesday we'll give you a date from 12 to 4, we're going to do the first test. And then again, it may be the very next Thursday, Friday. We want this to go as quickly as possible for everyone who is involved in this.
Your document says 9 weeks, so at least the one I'm reading.
You know what, and this could be, I'm sorry, I might actually have an old draft, because I was thinking that it was an 8-week period that we
I'm willing to pencil it out.
Well, if we can do it in 3 weeks, then more power to us, that's great. But yes, I think you are correct. The document has is the most recent one, so.
So really what you need to tell us at some point is the start date. It'll end 9 weeks later.
Correct, exactly.
Or sooner.
Exactly. But until we build the stage and get it completed, it's very difficult for us to say a start date. I mean, we could put it in August, could we not?
Mr. Mayor?
I don't think you want August.
Yeah.
Excuse me, Jay.
Exactly.
Jay, before you go for...
Hold on a second.
Wait, just
Sandy
a
wants to.
second. Could it not, because it seems to be dependent on the stage, could the verbiage not be within 4 days after the stage is built or within 2 days after the stage is built? That's the start date?
It can be any date he tells us, and then 9 months later it is.
When they're ready to go, that's the start date.
Yeah, and I think one of the issues here that we spoke through public safety and stuff with Marty and all is, I think one of the important elements is us notifying, Linda, you pointed that out very well, but notifying everybody when we're going to do this. I'd almost propose that we have the start date now or a week from now, because and then let the public and the city know that it's probably not going to be for at least 3 weeks or something like that. I don't know when we'll do it. Let me just explain something how we plan on it going. We did our baseline testing, so the only probably when we get it built, we're going to come in and we'll announce that to everybody. It'll be really sort of a short period, I think, where we're going to do some testing, and we'll jack the volume once or twice, which we did. Jimmy was working on the neighborhood, I think, also, and Marty, you said you were, but we just raised it to a louder volume than we've ever had before. We spiked it 2 or 3 times to do that testing, which was important. So we'll probably just do that. I'm assuming the first test that we do with the new sound stage, if we have to modify it more with foam, which we anticipate maybe we will, Then the second testing, we may do that. And I'm talking about like, 30-second spurts. And beyond that, after the third testing, that we're going to have musicians in there for, we expect to be completely well within, our modified, if you will, volume coming out of here. I just want to explain that. So the start date seems not as important to me. We can't pinpoint it, but if you prefer us to, we'll come back and let you know when the stage is actually
Well, all I was thinking is if you give us a couple weeks' notice.
Easy, yeah.
And then, once you give us that notice, you'll start, let's say, 2 weeks hence, and then you'll finish 9 weeks after that.
We can do that. That's acceptable. Yeah.
I mean, we can build the language into, you can build the language. Okay. I don't want to sit down. So.
I'm sure we all may have some questions here.
There must be more questions.
Number one, okay, we have a 9-way now. Obviously, I think everyone involved would like to see this be successful. But let's play the devil's advocate. What if it is not successful? What if after the first 3 weeks we have people banging on City Hall, complaining about the noise from Morgan Creek Grill, and
we haven't changed our ordinances. So the ordinance still is in effect, and the ordinance.
So I mean, we can. If I don't wish any bad.
But I agree with that.
If this doesn't work, there's an out clause for us to pull this after a certain period of time if we're not satisfied.
Right, and they want it to work.
Okay.
I mean,
all right. My next question is, will artists be allowed to use their own sound systems?
We at this point in time intend on putting our complete own sound system in, and that's it. And outside, our plans are, if we're able to execute it, we believe we are at this point in time to have only our own sound systems being used.
Which would have limiters,
our own
so that it
amplification.
could only go to a certain level.
So the answer is yes, our sound system.
Good.
That's our plan.
Next question. Will we ask the artists to sign a contract with a stipulation of what they can or cannot do?
And they already do.
We do that now.
Well, they were doing that before, and we've had a problem. I mean, are we going to have a specific contract design that would be part of this test program?
I believe that would more put that onus on us.
Yeah.
Well, I'm asking how you're going to control it. That's why I'm asking.
We're open to it. We could. I mean, if there's some language that we can come up with, that helps. But I think it's going to be on.
Okay. Well, I'm wondering.
But we're open to it. I mean, I hadn't thought of it.
Well, I guess
in those terms, but
there's times I've been to events where weddings where all of a sudden the band just goes crazy and cranks it up, and you can't even talk to the person next to you. So I'm just saying is that if we, just like the noise ordinance we have with rental property, we try to warn, and tell, renters, hey, this is our rules, and you have to abide by these rules. Same thing with these, make sure that the artists are staying within compliance.
we're currently doing that to some extent. The two new things here, there's new technology with these speakers about the low-end noises, and then we've got this sound limiter that we know about. So we're gonna be able to control from within the restaurant what number 10 is. These guys could keep turning their little monitor up or whatever they have, but we're going to have a limiter. So we should be able to do scientific testing of the decibels and just know flat out what it's going to be. This is what our hopes are, and we're very encouraged by what we've learned from the engineers.
Okay, thank you.
Jimmy?
Mr. Mayor, thank you. Again, I thank y'all for everything that y'all have been trying to do to appease everyone. And we've heard from some of our residents who pro and con. We've heard from residents who talk about rental houses. We don't want Isle Palms to become a party island. We want it to be a residential flavored island no matter what. And, we do have a sound noise ordinance on Isle Palms, and I think our police department does a good job. And if something comes up, somebody calls, they call the police, livability. And so, again, I thank y'all for doing the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
Okay, a couple of questions. In your, referring to this document, which you had bled over, it talks about times. It goes Tuesday to Saturday, and this is, of course, it says titled test period. But is this your anticipated times for music to be performed if you're performing those days after the test period?
No, simply the testing, because again, we'll be reactive when we finish this, and if we can get the product that we anticipate out of this. some of those issues we'll make plan accordingly with what we finish with. The finished product will determine what we'll try to do for the music and on that footprint. So the answer is no. That just was the testing period only.
Just input from me, in the future, if you have music, you should, I know you have a website and everything else, but somehow we need to advise the community if you're having music, when's it going to stop?
Sure.
Well, we do that. We do that on our website.
It's only your
And
website
also-
now, but not everybody visits your website. I don't know how to get it out. I'm not going to put flyers. I'm not going to put flyers out. But somehow that's part of the uncertainty.
Here's what we're doing regarding that, because in particular through this testing period, we have several of the people in particular that were that were complainant of the music, that we now have their web addresses, and so we can send emails. And as we all well know, we can put, the city can assist us with whatever, but we can have 1,500 email addresses. We'll publicly ask, do you want to be on this? Do you want to know when the music is going to be on and off? We can send those out, push button.
But again, not to be adversary about this, but no other restaurant on the island has to do that. I mean, they have the music. We're the only ones getting penalized because we're a city property, and we are trying so hard to work with you. So please continue to work with us.
Now, wind conditions.
They matter.
I know they matter.
Well, you try to do your testing with
Yeah,
multiple
that's what I was
wind
going to say. Are you
conditions and stuff.
testing and keeping track of the wind condition at the time of test?
Because there's that function where if we have music here and downwind, we're taking decibel readings. These engineers can then figure, well, upwind in the other case over there at that distance, here's approximately what you're going to get. And we think that through the testing period, we may have, we'll be able to pick up readings. Our meter was accurate within 5 decimeters, what is 5%? Decibels. So we're going to be getting that calibrated, and we're probably going to purchase another meter that is certified so that we can continue to sort of monitor those. But there's a scientific way of doing that, because it is a very big difference. Humidity is a big issue also with carrying.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Cindy.
I've heard several times that if this works, if this is successful, what is the measure of success? If they reach 60 decibels 20 feet away, and 65 decibels 200 feet away, and 55 decibels for the closer residents, is that deemed success?
Pure success is having no complaints at the rest.
However, but how
However,
are you going to quantify someone else's complaint? If they are at these decibel levels, which is on or below a conversation,
right,
then how can we say that if they reach these, it's not successful?
well, I wouldn't say they weren't successful.
But you're saying if somebody complains about them at this level.
Well, then their complaint has to be sustained. It's not just somebody complaining. Somebody else, say an officer, has to go there and say, yes, I can tell that this is disruptive. But
Now, how is the officer going to tell it's disruptive?
because
He's going to have a decibel.
we're not going to go to decibel. We're not going to go to decibel.
But then how do you measure that complaint? How does an officer?
As he does today.
measure- But that's
Or
my
she. He or
point.
she, yes.
That's my point. If we're asking them to use decibel levels as success or not
We-
success, how can we then say, but it's going to be somebody's subjective?
We're not asking them. They've come back to us and said, this is the plan.
Right, but
And
their
then we-
sound engineer has said, these are conversational levels.
And
I'm
therefore-
just getting at how are
and
we
therefore-
going to measure
Therefore, at a
the
conversational level,
complaints?
there should not be a disruptive condition
Right.
at any of the residences.
But for somebody, a cricket is disturbing.
No, we're not.
I understand what Sandy's saying.
I mean, if we're
'cause
asking, we need a measure.
there are some who will call no matter if they hear a cricket. But I do think our police department does a great job in going down and rolling down their windows or getting out the car, and they're listening.
If the decibel level is 55,
They won't hear anything.
They won't hear it.
Okay, so there should not be any pressure put on a police officer from a resident saying, I'm disturbed And the police officer says, but no, you're not disturbed because I don't hear it.
Right.
Well, that's what happens now.
And that's where they say it's not founded.
And that's where they say.
Unfounded.
It would have
I'm
to,
just going to
the
make sure
complaint
that we're
would-
not putting our officers in a position where they're going to be in, arguing with a resident that, yes, it is, or no, it's not.
I guess they are
Our
now.
officers make judgment every single time they come in contact with the public. They're making a judgment call on what's appropriate, what isn't appropriate, and this is the same thing.
But now, does then it go into the records as a complaint?
Any call to the police
So
department
they're
gets
an
reported.
unfounded
Unfounded.
complaint. Okay, so we will know that they're unfounded complaints, even
Correct.
though there may be several
Right.
complaints filed in.
Correct.
Okay.
And we know there'll be very few from an intercoastal court.
We got a happy group here.
And that was my-
Other questions from members? I should turn to my left. Not
Excuse me,
many?
that's
Yeah,
my
go ahead.
question on number 4 of our test plan here. It says, Morgan Creek should cooperate with the City of Isle of Palms Police Department, which will be conducting its own independent analysis of the noise testing.
And that analysis
That
will
is just by ear.
Correct.
Okay. No other discussion. We have a motion to approve
Second.
test plans modified to, as drafted, modified to include a future date to be established with 2 weeks in advance of the start of the test period.
And I would just want to add and point out that at any point during the test period, this permission to conduct the test plan can be revoked. If it is a problem, there is the ability for the city to revoke the test plan. So it will be incumbent upon Morgan Creek Grill to self-monitor, not to find themselves in a situation where the test period is revoked due to excessive noise complaints.
I have a question, please.
Please, sir.
Quite a few years ago, there were some problems with Coconut Joe's. Didn't that end up in a lawsuit?
Yes, sir.
Who won?
Coconut Joe's.
Coconut Joe's did. Right. So, I mean, we've done a lot of work on this, and I appreciate it and everything, but it looks like it's just we're bringing up something that's already been a precedent made on it. It's like disturbing neighborhoods, and the music is playing today.
The
It just concerns
element of the
me.
loss of the suit was because we had a decibel level,
In our
and we
noise
did not have a qualified, calibrated decibel. I should look at the chief, he was involved. We did not have a qualified decibel meter, or certified, or whatever. So, unless we have it certified, how can the court know whether it's actually recording properly? I mean, Jay mentioned he's got to have one, he's going to have it certified, et cetera. I mean, that's how we lost the suit. We had a decibel ordinance.
The ordinance has been changed since that.
That's why we're not
lawsuit
going to a
occurred.
decibel ordinance. It just gets us in trouble, because then we have to...
Yeah, it's pretty expensive.
Expensive, not only equipment, you got to qualify the individuals.
Test the equipment.
And then they have to be
Run the test.
like a radar gun, it has to be updated.
Recertified, yeah. Ooh. All right.
May I ask just one more
Please.
question, because it has come up since you all submitted your plan? Will any of the groups that you're booking have drums?
We're,
Or do you usually book groups with drums? Because those governors don't work on drums, correct?
well, it's, the drum kits have been stepping on that feature, but their drummers amplify their kits also, so at this point in time.
Here comes the expert.
At this point in time, we've been told that we will be able to have, limited drum kits with plenty inside the acoustical cage, if you will, stage, and that won't penetrate, because there's 2 things. The monitors that are sitting inside their musical instruments that they really need to audibly hear to be in tune and perform properly. And then there's the control of the outside PA systems. And so there's two different volume sets going on there, and we'll be in control of all. So we anticipate using drum kits for
However,
The answer is yes, and if it becomes a problem where we can't control it, then we will adapt to that, whether either limiting the drums or excluding them altogether if the new sound stage does not do what we think it's going to do as far as I guess.
Good.
But we're going to try it so we can find out.
Yeah, sure.
One last question. One of our residents who lived on Intercoastal Court, Mr. Guy, I think it was, saying that he enjoys sitting on his back porch and listening to the music. And I guess my concern is we want to keep the music closer into the Morgan Creek, not entertaining Mr. Guy on Intercoastal Court. But, try to keep it closer in. That's our, and I know y'all
Well, I think
trying to
Jay wants him to buy a beer once in a while. Okay, that's what he really wants to say.
Again, just to be perfectly clear, we are, we're confident that we're going to be able to substantially reduce all of that. Okay, so we wouldn't have gone down this road had we not got.
We want you to be successful.
Yeah.
Yes.
So.
I see the schedule coordinates with the Rolling Stones announcement of the zip code
Well, we
tour.
didn't tell them the plans.
So we'll see what's going to happen with that.
All right, let's move on.
Thank you.
We have a motion and a second.
Yeah.
All in favor of the city-sponsored event as dictated, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, get to it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job for us.
Figure out.
You're still working, right?
I'm still working.
You're all right.
I'm still working.
Good, I got a lot of questions.
Oh, no.
There goes everybody.
Talk about, under new business, discussion of the hazardous drainage ditch in the 2900 block of Palm Boulevard. You probably noticed that,
Talk about drainage. Did
yeah,
you-
talking
you clear-
about
you
drainage,
clear the crowd.
everyone's going out.
Marty.
Clear the road.
That is an SCDOT road. I think the chief was thinking to put a sign there and that would mitigate that. And I'm not sure if that's the same area where Public Works talked to someone and got some shell sand.
Yes,
And
that is.
just with the shell sand there, I've noticed a big difference when we have the heavy rains. So that's great. We reviewed the fire and police department's proposed FY16 capital and expense budgets for a long time. Past all this, and a lot of budget things were discussed. And that brings me to the fire department and departmental reports. I'm sorry, we did discuss the T2 contract that we previously approved. Okay, now, reports. In the fire department, they responded to 55 incidents, 25 of which were EMS. And on February 21st, I'm sure you all saw the news, the big fire on Sullivan's Island, we assisted them with structure fire and also assisted Allendale with a structure fire on February 19th. In the police department, we saw the presentation that was made to Sergeant Baldrick, and that's one of many things she does. But while we're on a roll here about recognizing people, PFC Matt Storn has been nominated for Officer of the Year for the South Carolina Law Enforcement Network for his outstanding performance in alcohol and drug enforcement. Many arrests and underage drinking, DUI and all. And the department also received a complimentary email on Patrol Officer James Taylor stating he'd been pleasant and professional assisting them when they had locked their keys inside their vehicle. Livability report, we had 3 noise complaints which resulted in 2 warnings and 1 citation. We had 4 barking dog complaints which resulted in 3 warnings and 1 impounded system. We considered selling surplus self-contained breathing apparatuses. We have really no use for them. They're worth very little since they're kind of the old old vintage. We had a request from Bono Fire Department to donate them to them, and the suggestion was made that we sell them to them for $5 a piece, as just so we could create a paper trail and know what happened to them. Our next meeting date is at 9:30, Thursday, April 9th.
All right, questions?
Question statement. During the Wild Dunes Community Association meeting, coyotes came up. A couple things. Number one, I think we really need to encourage our residents and visitors, when they do see one of these critters, to call the police department so they can continue to update their records. And I think we need something on the website that would alert people to do that. And second of all, because there is a curiosity about it, a lot of it because Sullivan's Island has a much bigger problem with it than we do, but they are out there on the island, that we add this to our monthly police report so we know what type of sightings we're seeing.
Coyote sightings.
Okay.
New chapter.
So just a simple line, if someone wants to check it out, that it would be available to them. So I'd like to make that suggestion.
That is, we'll take that.
While we're on public safety, I'll comment that the administrator and I, and we captured the chief while he was on vacation, went to Columbia and testified before the Senate Subcommittee on Transportation, dealing with golf carts, and in particular being able to use the right-of-way on Palm Boulevard between 21st and really the connector. We made our pitch, and it was actually held over because one of the senators wanted to consider what his community might want to add to it from his golf cart perspective. Senator Clary from Georgetown area, lives in Merle's Inlet. So we had favorable nods, but they took no action at that time, even though we took all morning to get up there and back. Caused the chief to give up part of this time away, but we have been advised that it has been moved forward to the full Transportation Committee, which will be heard tomorrow, and they don't expect any disruption, although any one of these senators can put a hold on it for the same thing Clary tried to do, which is he wanted to attach other things. He apparently hasn't had time to come up with those other things yet, so it's still in the state that it was when we drafted. So hopefully it gets through the Senate and we can get to the House before this session is over, which is early June. So we're still clicking along. So that's the status. Sandy?
Marty, on page 7 of your report, it says that you're increasing the wages for the BSOs in an effort to attract applicants. Could you tell me what that hourly rate is?
No, I cannot, but that would be part of the budget process.
Budget process? Because I noticed it goes from $65,000 to $87,000 for the same number of BSOs?
I think we went to $13 an hour, is my recollection.
That's right.
The goal was to try to encourage more people to apply for those positions. We still are challenged in getting applications for people to do that job. I'll put a plug in right now. This is a great job for someone who's a college student that wants to work in the summer. It's a little bit more than just writing parking citations. That is one component of what's done, but there is also a good bit of work out on the beach and interaction with people and parking management. Get to work with a great Isle of Palms Police Department team and also interface with the other departments. And if an employee is successful at it, it is a fantastic reference to be able to put on a young person's resume that they had this experience with the Isle of Palms Police Department during their youth and they were successful at it. It is also a very good position for a retired person who maybe is not looking for a full-time position for a full year, but would enjoy some pretty weather position for a brief period of time. And so likewise, it's a good position for that type of person. But we've had a lot of difficulty in attracting people to do that job at the hourly rate that we were offering, and we were hoping that increasing the offering up to $13 per hour would offer some incentive for those people who can qualify for the position to send in their application. So I'm making the appeal here. If anyone knows anybody who would be suitable for that type of work, please encourage them to apply so that we can expand and get those people out there to do enforcement in the peak season.
And this employment period is from when to when?
Basically, the typical thing, if we can bring them on now, it's perfect, and keep them until Labor Day. That's the ideal. But in some cases, because some of the BSOs are students, we have to wait until they're available, out of school, and then we have to accommodate them when they return. But we try to stagger schedules so that it works, because we may have some people that are available for the full from March until September, and then others who are not. So the ideal schedule is from now until September. We never meet that, though.
I think I saw an article or an ad in the Moultrie News or Island Eye News, searching for those positions. So I think we're trying to get the word out there.
Right. But they require pretty extensive background checks, right?
Yes. They have to have a clear record.
Yeah, because my understanding was that was the other part of the problem.
It is.
That once you attract them, you still have those that can't qualify.
That's correct.
All right. Any other comments for public safety? All right. Let's move on to public works, please.
Thank you, sir. Public Works Committee met 5:30 p.m. Thursday, March 12, 2015. All committee members were present. We didn't have any citizen comments. We approved the minutes from the previous meeting. We had the maintenance trash collection tracking reports. The director, Donnie Pitts, commented that personnel pump water from 48th to 50th, 51st Avenues on February 26th and 7th from the heavy rains. And also, this was the invoice, this is the time when the invoice from the February repairs to the CAT came in. But they have been fixed. There were coolant problems and had to rebuild a hydraulic system. Despite the big hit, the director was confident vehicle maintenance would end the year at budget, unless something large, unexpected was to happen. Debris was slightly up in February, primarily because the CAT was back in service for an entire month. Update on cleaning the drainage ditch and Forest Trail. Director Pitts reported that the work on Forest Trail was completed in February. Follow-up discussion on the new Front Beach lights. We heard good reports about the Front Beach lights from Island Gras, and it was the committee's wish that we make sure that the new lights were truly turtle-friendly. Administrator Tucker gave a presentation about how she felt that they were, but we were going to monitor the situation and make sure that SC&G did not think that the city would not have a problem. Make sure we don't have one. And they're going to research it and get back to us with any new information. Date on drainage, the ditch at 29th and Palm, which Public Safety's already commented on. I think, Donnie, we put some of that sandstone down, which fixed that problem. We also had another discussion about the handicap space at 21st Avenue. This has been a long-standing concern of especially Councilmember Loftus. It is a major problem because all it is a swimming pool anytime it rains. And we seem to think it's a county problem. The administrator said she would stay in contact with the county and keep the committee informed. New business consideration removal at the 18 old light poles on the front beach. It had to be taken down, and we agreed to do that. We had a discussion of street lights on Forest Trail. Once we had put the lights up on Front Beach, a lot of people were contacting me, like, we want some too. And so we had a discussion about how all that works, and it's basically everybody in the neighborhood has to agree 100%. And if they do, they come to City Council, and then we'll approve it and approach SC&G. But there is a cost for the installation, and there is a cost for the service, if I understand correctly.
That's correct.
But anybody any neighborhood that wants street lights, we'll do our best to make sure it happens. And we had a discussion of drainage at 123 Sparrow Drive and Duck Lane is just another one of those big problem areas of the island, and we had an especially wet winter. Everybody knew, but we're trying to help the resident out as much as we can. It's also a county problem. We talked about hazardous material and shred day, which will be 9 a.m. to noon, Saturday, April 25th. So put that on your calendar. If it's going to be where it has been, it's been in the parking lot, the big parking lot. That's Saturday, April 25th, 9 a.m. to noon. Then we had analysis of relocating public works. Had quite a lively discussion. I'm sure people have a lot of things to say about it, but you can check the minutes and read the whole thing. It was not unanimous, but some people on the committee wanted to keep it on the table and keep an open mind about it, especially since the location we have is so close to the water right now. We had a review of the fiscal year 16 operating capital works budgets. And we talked about floating holidays versus regular holidays for employees. I'm sure personnel is going to discuss that further. One important point to make, the Director Pitts said that, for instance, when Charleston County banks and post office were closed for a holiday, residents assumed that the city is also on holiday. For public works, I mean, residents did not put their garbage out for pickup, and the landfill was closed to offload garbage, so public works personnel cannot pick up garbage or yard debris on that day. So I thought that was an important point to make. Talked about the budget some more. Talked about increase in workman's compensation. All this stuff that I find very interesting. Very few people have much interest in it, I'm sure. Capital projects fund. Talked about that. Municipal aid tax and state aid tax. We also discussed getting the city should get its own skid steer apparatus for beach maintenance. Presently, in the past we've rented this equipment a week in the fall and a week in the spring to clear the beach access. It's very expensive. Having the equipment on the island mean the beach access pass would be cleaned when needed, not twice a year like it is now. So I don't think we had a vote on that, but everybody in the committee was in agreement. Talked about the 10-year capital plan. I'll let you review that at your leisure. And the next committee meeting will be Thursday, April 9th at 5:30 p.m., and that's my report.
Okay. Let's go back to this moving public works off the island. I know you had a healthy and lengthy discussion of that.
Yes, we did. And I just wanted to open up. I'd like to hear everybody's opinions. It's never been discussed fully in council. It's been discussed. It was discussed in the May full city council meeting briefly of 2014, discussed briefly in the June 2014 meeting, in a full council briefly. March 11 Public Works Committee, it was, we talked about the lot over there, and we were waiting. The reason that we go for it on the improvements on 1301 and 1303 because we've been waiting for SE&G to complete their work on the site, which went on forever, it seems like. But I'm hoping we can have a friendly, open-minded discussion about this issue and discuss what we think is best for the island going into the future, not just 5 years from now, but 20, 30 years from now.
Mr. Mayor?
Okay, Jimmy?
Mayor? Today when I was going to the recreation department to play my Tuesday ping pong tournament, I ran into one of the members of the public who lived back behind the city here, and he was showing me some pictures of the water outflow behind City Hall and a sheen to it. So, I mean, I think there's something there to be said as for having...
That's a different problem than relocating. I mean, that's,
and then at the same time...
That's part of the problem that we had budgeted that hasn't been executed.
Yes, sir. And at the same time, he also talked about just the unsightliness of the buildings as you come on the island, and as the four corners of Isle Palms as being one of the most important. So it is something I think we ought to look into for the longer-term plan.
Okay.
I'm just waiting. I mean, everyone's got some opinions, I'm sure. I have a whole bunch.
The department here in the island that I get most compliments from is the Public Service Department. Public Works, Public Service. They don't just pick up the trash. They clean the beach access paths. They do a lot of other sundry tasks on the island. And having them remote is just foreign to my thinking. I don't have any other place on the island where I would position them because we don't have any land. But having them remote off the island basically takes them away from the island and to be close at hand and to be able to respond. I haven't seen anything in the economic and report that was presented on costs and analysis. Obviously, if we want to do away with public works on this island, we could go hire somebody.
We don't want to do that.
No, I don't do that.
We don't want to do that, no. Okay, everybody's shaking their head. Well, putting them 15 miles away or 8 miles away through 7 traffic lights is the same thing as subcontracting, giving that work to somebody else. In my view, it's just not the friendly nature of what we've grown to be accustomed with our public works department. Jimmy.
I grew up in Kinston, North Carolina, Eastern North Carolina, and our public works department was 7 miles out of town. And it was just a rural farm community.
And you can get to and from easy. You know, you can't get to and from anywhere in Mount Pleasant. You can't get to the island easy with trucks. At least that's my view.
Well, what I'm saying from opposing here is not unheard of.
Oh, no,
I'm
I
sure
understand.
Kinston, North Carolina is not the only place in the United States that has public works off-site. And I don't want to dominate the conversation. I just want to make that comment, that it works well for them.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mark.
Oh, you know, as far as seeing it, when you come on the island, you probably get unless you're stopped, you get maybe a 3 or 4 second glance out the side, because I know when I'm coming the island, as soon as I hit the top of the bridge, I'm looking at the light to see what it's doing, see what lane I need to be in, or which way I need to be going. And I agree with the mayor that we're in my mind, we would be taking away services from the citizens of the island, and that's what the city is all about, is providing service to our residents.
To that end,
Okay.
something.
Go ahead, Barb.
To that end, something that wasn't in the analysis that I think is hugely important and would disappear if we're off the island. We have a gentleman called Bill Shupp. Bill Shupp works 7 days a week. I've seen him on the beach at 1 in the morning. I've heard his truck go by my house at 4 in the morning. He does not work 9 to 5. He has to have a place to dump the stuff he takes. If we're off the island, how does he do that? It just and how important is it? We absolutely have to have him. The second thing is Donnie Pitts. Donnie Pitts works well with others, right? He's called on from every department to be doing stuff almost on a daily basis. Well, he can't be off the island somewhere directing the trucks and doing stuff on the island. He'd be going back and forth. I mean, his workday would probably have hours cut off of it just traveling back and forth. And the third thing is we're a small footprint on an island. We can't ever find any more land to buy. We don't even know what the future might hold for that parcel of land. So selling the land doesn't seem tenable, and spending $1 million. Every budget we go through down to the nickels and dimes, saving money, and we can't spend $5,000 on this, and we can't spend $8,000 on this, but we want to spend $1 million to decrease services and increase the yearly budget of Public Works. It just doesn't make any sense.
Okay, Michael?
Well, I'm on the committee, and we had a pretty interesting discussion about that. And one thing I've worked very hard on City Council, and I stated earlier that for the last 8 years we have not raised taxes on our residents. And to take this action, to move it right here, and I also would like to be on the record saying, Douglas Kerr did a great job on putting this together. However, I think there's some intangibles that would push the price tag of this move up significantly. That is hard, just like we were talking about the extra services, which would probably force hiring additional people, even temps or even full-time people, to give people the same level of service they had if we would move this off island. And the challenge is, and I can understand Councilman Ward, has seen this work in the past, is Mount Pleasant is a very fully developed community. The price of real estate up there is extremely expensive, so the numbers just don't work without us forcing us into a tax increase. And my biggest concern is that I'm really committed not to raising taxes unless it's absolutely necessary.
And any numbers. If you want something to go find a way to make it not happen. And I think as we look at these numbers, some of the numbers are based on just selling certain portions of the land and not all portions of the land. We're talking about the time that it takes for the trucks to come over and back. But my understanding is that none of our Public Works employees live on the Isle of Palms. So if they live in James Island or Johns Island, and they have to come all the way to Isle of Palms to work, and then go all the way back, if they were on the other side, the time saved between them coming to and from work could in fact be integrated into the times that we have our services. And again, it's like, if you want to make it happen, it can happen. If you're open-minded to the fact, I think the thing that attracted me to the project was the fact that we have $1 million, if not more, piece of land on the Isle of Palms, and it has garbage trucks on it. So if I were in real estate, I certainly wouldn't be looking at the value of that land and what it's being used for as being responsible. And that was my only looking at this. What is that land? What is the value of that land? What is the pro forma of that land? I keep using that term. So often on this island, we do things by emotion. But if you look at the numbers in terms of what the value of that land is and what it could be sold for and what the entrance to the Isle of Palms could be in 2 years or 5 years or 10 years. I mean, we talked about, I think in the capital plan, there is roundabouts talked about towards the marina as something that would be better, something that would be much nicer looking than what we've got. So I'm just saying, let's don't squash it. Let's look at what the possibilities are. Of course we don't want taxes raised. But I think if we look at what the value of that land is and how it could work, there might be a plan in place. I'm just saying, don't say no, let's just look at the possibilities.
Well, I'm saying no. That's my opinion. I see no value in continuing this.
I agree. Well, can I make a motion that we move Public Works off the island?
That we move it off?
Yes. Can I make that motion?
You can make that motion.
No one wants to second?
So nobody's going to second her motion.
Not the way it's worded.
Well, word it better.
You're making the motion.
I'll defer to you.
He doesn't want to make a motion.
I would like, the motion to state that we look into the consideration of moving Public Works off the island to see if it's financially feasible.
Second.
Motion and second.
Can I amend that motion?
Can we discuss it?
Well, he can amend it. If he wants to amend it, he can amend it.
I would like to see this as not something that we're looking to do right now, but in the future, the long-range future of the island. A 5-year or a 10-year plan down the road. This is not something we need to do right now. Right now, we just need to. Donnie Pitts' service down there is unsurpassed. I would never.
I don't hear
I'll second that.
It's a long-range plan.
It's more, I think, the intent of what is being presented here is the philosophy of where we're going. Are we going to just say no, never, ever, ever? We're going to have garbage trucks there forever, and this council approves that. Or are we going to keep it open to look at it to see if it's financially feasible? That's all.
Okay, just go ahead.
Well, number one, we're asking the city to spend valuable time, which where you have a parking program and other things going on, or where the beach is getting trashed. And I really don't want the city and spending hour and time and working on this when we could be doing on things that are more productive.
I have a
And-
suggestion.
Excuse me, I have the floor, please.
Certainly.
And secondly, I think the issue is whether we do it, look into it now or look into it 5 years from now or 10 years from now, it's going to mean a tax increase for our residents. And the costs actually go up rather than go down. And you look at the value of a dollar now than it was, say, in 1992. Okay, they built the connector. We've been through 3 mayors. We've been through dozens of city council people that have not moved to make this move, to move public works off the island. And there's a good reason for that. It does not make economic sense to make this move. It does not make sense from a city service to make this move. And that's why this has never gotten any traction to go anywhere.
Because no one's ever brought it up.
You said you brought it up in 1992 and no one supported it.
I wasn't on
then.
council in 1992, but I brought it up.
Oh,
But I had no voice.
Okay, excuse me. You said you brought it. You've been talking about this since 1992.
That's right,
Okay.
but I wasn't on council.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Any discussion further?
Oh, well, Mr. Mayor, we've got a new comprehensive plan coming up. Does that comprehensive plan mention moving public works off of the island?
It doesn't include the marina either.
Well, the marine's not going to move.
Mr. Mayor.
Well, part of the problem with where we are is we have not been doing anything with the site we've got. And we need to improve that site for the effluent that flows out into the creek. We can spend money to improve the viewing, or block the viewing of the trucks, et cetera, along Pond Boulevard. Coming down the connector, the only thing people talk about ever is waving Santa. They don't talk about anything else that's coming across the connector. Huh?
They talk about
Well, the water, of course.
Well, they talk about finding a parking spot.
Well, but the only thing they see in that area is, I think, is the waving Santa. So I think we need to get on with improving that site, making it acceptable and permittable under NPDES, and we can improve it. So, Sandy had a comment.
Just towards Councilman Loftus saying that he didn't wish for the staff to have to spend any more time. Why can't we assign this to the Planning Commission?
And what are they going to do? They have no resources other than Douglas.
Yeah, he's already doing it.
But I think that there is expertise that that Douglas may be able to bring in to give us more, expertise in terms of.
Douglas has brought in the Planning Commission. You've used a member of the Planning Commission to do some of the real estate searching, have you not?
Just one.
Well, how many are there on there?
We got a pretty heavy-duty Planning Commission now.
The time has come. We're passing the buck. This is, to my mind, an ill-thought-out idea. It's going to cost more in servicing the vehicles. It's going to cost more in depreciation of the vehicles. It's going to cost more for the employees. They don't get paid by where they start their day. They get paid from the day when they start and when they end. So they still, it makes no sense. It's going to decrease services. It's going to put a real pressure on Donnie trying to manage basically being 2 places at one time. And we have to do something about the site right now. So.
And we're signing on to a pollution risk forever, right there, where we could do something about it.
Correct. Okay.
I guess the only other thing is we would have the same MPDES requirements at the new locations we have here, so.
But we wouldn't be
When we
located
get
a
to a
block
vote,
from
I'd like to
water.
have the motions read, please.
Yeah.
There should be an amendment.
Was to consider a move off island if financially feasible was what Councilman Ward was his motion, and then Councilman Carroll asked to make it part of the long-range plan.
A long-range plan.
So we vote on the amendment first? Is that
Correct.
Yeah, correct. All in favor of the amendment, please say aye. Was there a second to the amendment?
Oh, yeah.
Can I request a roll count?
Just Councilmember Ward second.
Okay, fine.
Roll count on both amendments, please, or both
The
motions?
amendment? All right.
Got a roll call? A roll call is being asked for.
But I can take care of it.
So the first one is we're voting
On the
For the-
amendment.
On the amendments,
which
which
is
is part of the
part of a
law.
long-term plan.
Okay.
Councilmember Burgwood.
No.
And Councilmember Patelli.
No.
Callan's not here. Councilmember Carroll.
Yes.
Councilmember Ferenz.
Yes.
Councilmember Harrington.
No.
Councilmember Loftus.
No.
And Councilmember Ward.
Yes.
So you've
And
got.
the mayor. Just mayor needs to vote.
I'm
No.
sorry.
Oh, the mayor.
So you've got 5-3, I mean 6-3.
No, 5-3.
Because Brian's not here.
Brian's not.
Okay, now on the primary motion.
Could
You
you
want-
read that one again?
Yes.
Read the primary motion again, please.
Was to consider moving Public Works off island if financially feasible. This is function.
Okay? You want to roll?
Councilmember Burgworth.
No.
Councilmember Patelli.
No.
Councilmember Carroll.
Yes.
Councilmember Ferenz.
Yes.
Councilmember Harrington.
No.
Councilmember Loftus.
No.
Mayor.
Councilmember Ward.
Yes.
And Mayor Cronin.
No.
The same vote.
No surprise.
Okay.
So it's never to be brought up again, right?
Sounds that way. We have in our package,
Oh, Mr. Mayor, could I make another motion? Please.
you can always make a motion.
Okay. I'd like to move that the city move forward with awarding the necessary contracts and making improvements at the Public Works site as outlined in the FY15 budget to bring the site into compliance with the National Pollution Discharge
Second.
Elimination System.
Second?
Motion and second.
Comment?
Councilman Ward, yes.
I'd like to request, this needs to go back to the committee. It's been some time since it's been discussed, and I think before we move forward, it should be discussed in Public Works Committee.
I think we should go ahead and have a vote.
Yeah.
A roll call vote.
It's in last year's budget. We already voted.
Well, okay, well, it is in the last year's budget, but, you know, what is it? There's a schematic in here which I have a question about. Okay? Which was, this came up and it was voted down by city council about a roundabout in there. So is this the plan we're voting on?
Well, we're voting to
No,
mitigate
no, I
the-
mean,
Yes.
I was questioning why this was in there.
In order to be, and it was put in there deliberately, because in order to execute the plan for which you have the budget, it requires that we do that configuration. That's the only way to get all of the elements that are required to come into compliance to be able to be done on the site without, which I know that I requested that the Public Works Director reach out to all of the committee members, I want to say this was last year even, to get you all to visit the site so that you could see the reason it only works under this configuration. The only other way to do it would require that all of the trucks make a 3-point turn on the site every time they go through the process.
More than one 3-point turn.
Correct. So, and so it isn't that this configuration has something to do with, oh, this is just what we like. It is more that in order to do the appropriate wash down where it needs to be done and to have the appropriate drain in place, and in order to be able to do the white goods shed and protection in the area where it needs to be done on the site with the way that it is configured with the storage tanks and everything, this is the means by which to do that. So the what we have to do dictates how the site needs to be configured. And we were happy to have you come to the site so that Donnie can put someone in the truck and to show you why it is necessary to do this configuration in order to do the elements of the budget that have been developed.
Well, I still feel that because it's been such a long period of time since this has been actively discussed at the committee level, it should go back to the committee for review, and then it should come back to council with a recommendation. And
again, we've been hedging on this for 10 months.
It's longer than 10 months. It's been almost a year and a
Well,
half.
okay,
So
then-
we haven't done anything about it, so it doesn't make sense for us to just rush this through without the due diligence of the committee.
I thought the committee approved.
No, they didn't. This plan was not approved.
What did we approve? Was there a
Michael,
plan when we approved the budget? Was this the
The
plan?
budget is based on that configuration.
But the plan was not approved.
Okay.
Okay, so we're arguing about whether we should have another, whether the truck should be able to pull in and then back straight
Well,
out.
we need to go
That's it,
back
right?
and go over the basics and see where we're at. We need to, go back and revisit the site, and I don't think we're doing our due diligence by just, you're mixing apples and oranges here. One was as far as a philosophy about moving the site, moving Public Works off the island. The other one is, what is the best way to proceed for this? And I think we're not, this is when I saw this in there, knowing that we voted this plan down, pretty solidly when it came up to vote 2 years ago, I couldn't understand what was going on.
That was before MPDES. And that was the parking lot in front, and there was all sorts of stuff.
Well,
A bonus to this is if we do this plan as is, that front gate becomes an emergency gate. We can put a different fence up and really stop the trucks from pulling in right at the intersection or pulling out right at the
Well, it'd be
intersection.
nice, I'd like to be able to see
Okay.
this and talk about it.
Let's take-
Well, there's a motion.
We're not proceeding to it
There wasn't a
correctly.
second on the motion.
There was, I think Jimmy.
I
Ward
second it.
Give me a second. All right.
Excuse me, one last comment. I don't see any reason to delay. My battle's lost. The plan is drawn out. If there's a concern about pollution, we need to fix it.
Let's have a roll call vote.
Okay.
Okay,
No other
so-
discussion? Let's take a vote.
Mr. Mayor,
Please.
could you refresh my memory? What's the number on this, the budgeted number?
I'm going to say
It's
375.
it's in your,
Three something.
if you look at your sheet that's in the analysis,
What page then?
it's in Douglas's analysis. It's about 3 pages into his
Oh.
analysis. Those are the same numbers that are,
In the budget?
and I can tell you what page it's in the budget. The only difference is when we planned the FY16 budget, we figured we might need to include some actual civil engineering. So we included in the FY16 number an additional $21,500 for additional design expense. I'm looking at Douglas to make sure. But if you look in your you got your orange budget with you? If you look on page 59 in the orange budget, it's on line 89 there.
Mr. Mayor, or maybe,
I'll get Sandy to get her, make sure she's satisfied. Is it?
And my expectation would be if this motion goes through, that this project will span, it would be initiated in the year that we're in now and probably finish up in FY16. So we will, and we've already included it in the FY16 budget.
So the NPDES is 283,000?
It's a net number of 283,000. That is actually a greater expense than that, but you recall, we believe that Charleston County is going to reimburse us
190.
for the elements of it that are NPDES related.
Okay, Jimmy?
Mr. Mayor, if I'm not mistaken, I think the NPDES, we're in a position where we could get fined if we don't get something done as soon as possible.
Correct.
Thank you.
We're,
Been that way for 2 years.
I don't want to say we're exposed, but we are potentially.
Thank you.
You don't want anybody calling them, please.
Well, now we've brought it up in public session, it's on TV. so-
All right.
But it needed to be
We
said.
have a
It needed
motion
to be
and
said.
second and discussed, and we're going to have a roll call?
Councilmember Burglar,
Aye.
Councilmember Vitelli,
Yes.
Councilmember Carroll,
Yes.
Councilmember Firin,
Yes.
Councilmember Harrington,
Yes.
Councilmember Loftus,
Yes.
Councilmember Ward,
Yes?
and Mayor Cronin.
Yes. Okay.
The oysters behind the island, thank you.
The
We will
oysters.
get to work.
Well, Wasn't it Toby that came to us, wanted to put a whole study together?
Right.
On the pollution sources? Okay. Recreation Committee, please.
This will be a fun report, Mr. Mayor.
Good.
We need some.
Can't help it, huh, Norma Jean?
Recreation met on Monday, March the 2nd at 9 a.m. All members of the committee were present. The previous minutes were approved and there were no citizens' comments. Under Director Page's report, our Adult League tournament play is in full swing, and especially the table tennis, so excuse the pun when I say that. Also, our Youth Basketball League concluded another great season. Our youth baseball registration produced more than 200 applicants in all brackets. Our upcoming beach run for Saturday, July 25th will also include a beach walkers for the first time.
There's hope for us yet.
Just like Walking Dead.
Hey, just like all the other races, yeah. We also held a hunter's education class and a babysitting course. Staff is still working for new courses, including an island water ecology orientation and a photography course. Details of that more to come in the future. Of course, as everyone knows, we held our second annual Island Graw Street Festival on March the 7th, which is really a greatly turned out event. Great music, food, games, weather was had by all. I might even add the mayor was there with his jumbo-sized beads and beaming with pride.
Shake 'em
So
up.
I had to throw it
Shake
out
'em up.
there. Yes, sir. We also dedicated the front beach lights, with most of the council barely making it there on time. The lights look great, and not to mention our commercial district loves them. Recent events, I believe we mentioned before, but because they were in our minutes, I'll restate. Our first middle school dance was held with over 300 kids in attendance. The teenagers started their meetings again, with the first meeting having 52 participants. Our Doggy Day at the park was attended by many, many dogs. 69 dogs participated in a beauty contest, and we sold 90 dog licenses. Our summer camp registrations are sold out. We let our island residents sign up a week in advance and then off to the off-islanders. This program is a huge success with all kinds of themes for the different weeks. I'm not sure we could expand on this program any further because it's packed. Upcoming events are this Saturday's Easter egg hunt, which to me is one of the most amazing things to watch. Recreation.
Get out of the way.
Recreation staff spends weeks preparing for this. Our teenagers help in stuffing eggs and such, and when the bell goes off at 10 o'clock to scramble for the thousands of hidden eggs, it's done in literally minutes. Come on out and watch this. Plus, if you're lucky, you might get your picture taken with the Easter Bunny. Other upcoming events include the annual yard sale on April the 25th, where one person's no longer wanted stuff becomes another person's newly found treasures. We have music in the park scheduled for April the 25th, and of course our annual Piccolo Spoleto sand sculpting competition on Saturday, May 30th. There was no old business. Under the new business, we discussed the purchase of a sound system for the rec department, which was brought up during Ways and Means in the past. This was also a system that's used not only by the recreation, but by many departments on the island, so it's a great thing. We then got into the upcoming budgeting process, where they are expected to have about a 6% increase, which is mainly due to items beyond our control. Insurance, health insurance, property insurance, merit pay. It's part of life. We're seeing the same across all the departments in the city. Under capital projects, we have one desktop computer, 3 pieces of cardio equipment. We also have several lawn and field care equipment items that need to be replaced. Our tennis court surface and surrounding fencing is in immediate need of replacement. Some of it's just falling apart, and we saw pictures of it during the Ways and Means. It's time to do it. In looking at our 10-year plan, there was a pool in the horizon for within the years, with a budget line item several years out of around $2.5 million. Director Page said she would investigate the cost and report back to us. City staff prepared several tools to help show how each department, spreadsheets showing the fund sources, the personnel numbers, and one showing how the tourism funds help the island's cost. There was no miscellaneous business. Our next meeting is scheduled for April the 5th at 9 a.m. Motion was to adjourn, and so in my report.
Very good. Meeting next week. Any questions for Rick? Let's move on to personnel, please.
Yes, our regular meeting of the Personnel Committee was held on Monday, March 2nd, 2015. The majority of topics, the major topics included a discussion of an eventual unanimous Personnel Committee recommendation to grant city employees 2 additional paid holidays, Christmas Eve and President's Day, in the 2016 budget. The basis for this recommendation was based on a review of the surrounding municipalities. A survey demonstrated that Kiowa and Isle of Palms grant their employees the same number of holidays, whereas Folly, Mount Pleasant, Sullivan's Island, North Charleston, and the city of Charleston provide their employees 2 additional paid holidays. And the cities of Somerville and Seabrook grant their employees 4 more holidays than we do here in the Isle of Palms. Historically, our other major topic involved the review of the FY16 budget, proposed budget, and the impact of a 3%, 4%, 5%, and 6% merit pool that was instituted last year. Historically, the merit pool concept was adopted 7 years ago during severe downturn in the economy. The policymakers at that time decided to replace COLA with the merit pool of 3% because they decided employees should be rewarded on performance rather than just receive automatic salary increases. The department managers would decide who in their respective departments would get the money from the pool. Because the 3% merit pool was not in keeping pace with the increases in the cost of living, health care, retirement contributions, and the surrounding local government salaries, the pool was raised to 6%, as I said last year. In addition to that, the council, to keep the city competitive in the marketplace, a salary survey was conducted. The results prompted council to increase wage ranges for all employees in the city. These efforts, and they have been borne out, were made to attract good employees and promote employee retention. Further discussion of the merit pool prompted our discussion of reinstating COLA, which the mayor has spoken of. Thus, we had a unanimous Personnel Committee recommendation was made to reinstate COLA in the 2016 budget. Okay. January safety sweepstakes winners are, in general government, Amy Lee; Police Department, Patrolman Amanda Postel; Public Works, Charles Williams; and in the Fire Department, Bill Pesicher. In terms of staff vacancies, we have 1 firefighter vacancy and the BSOs that were spoken of earlier. Our next Personnel Committee meeting is on April 8th at 10 o'clock in the morning. Now that I'm completed my report, I would like to make a motion concerning the Personnel Committee's unanimous recommendation concerning the paid holidays. In view of last week's discussion in the Ways and Means and the objections that were raised, and in addition, because a paid holiday only represents 1/4 of 1% in the salaries budget, I would like to amend our committee's recommendation as follows. My motion would be, I make the motion that we add 2 additional paid holidays for our city employees, Christmas Eve and a floating holiday to be approved by the respective department manager.
Second.
Motion is second. You mean Christmas Eve day?
Christmas Eve day, excuse me.
So we're clear.
And
a floating holiday.
And based on the discussion Ways and Means, that's why I'm altering that.
And we had discussed, we had a motion, a second. We, at Ways and Means, we had added in the budgeting process the Christmas Eve day and passed on and a second.
So we don't need to do that again, do we?
Well, he's bringing it up again. So we had a motion and a second. Any discussion further? And we discussed tonight. This is a floating day versus the original recommendation. Which
Was President's Day in the Personnel Committee that was voted unanimously, but based on the discussion we had, and then my research that this only represents 1/4% of the salary budget, I think it's minuscule in terms of what we can do for our employees.
Okay. Other discussion?
What's the cost of a day?
But if it's,
Approximately $10,000.
but if it's a floating day, not necessarily in the
It
match.
doesn't run up. The advantage of the floating holiday, it takes care of our employees, yet it also controls the spending.
So the motion is to add a floating holiday?
Correct.
Well,
Well, you really
the
don't.
motion is to,
You don't need the first motion because it's already been approved by council.
But it doesn't hurt.
It doesn't. I mean, it's just a
The
reaffirmation.
moot point.
Okay.
reaffirms.
All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. You got a floating holiday. How you factor that in. Okay. And that ends your report, correct?
Yes.
You've done it in your work time. All right, real property.
No, excuse me, before we proceed, I have a question
Yeah, please.
about, on page 3 of Personnel Committee minutes, in the paragraph A, under General Government Merit Pool, it says the 6% merit pool was established last year. There's no precedence of that happening. That was a one-time deal, so it's not established, because that wording implies it's permanently embedded in our budgeting system, and it is not. So I take exception to that way that's phrased right there, because I think it's, each year that we have made, increases for our employees, it has been based on many, many factors. Example, when we have money, when we have more money, we can spend money on the employees, which is great, and when we have less money, unfortunately, we have to cut back. So I think it should be, that needs to be changed.
Well, that was the minutes. That's at the time.
I'm saying the phrase is wrong, and I want to correct the record that it should be in there.
These are just a draft, and the word established, as Michael says, leaves the impression that's an ongoing policy, as opposed to, it was there for last year.
That was established last year. I didn't.
It's the word established.
The proper way, the 6% was
in place.
The merit pool for last year.
How about in place for last year?
Establish implies a permanent, and we can't afford 6% every year.
Nor is it needed.
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, I need a little clarification on what we just voted on. We voted on an additional floating holiday. Now, that floating holiday will be voted on by the staff and therefore become a certain day?
My motion said that approved by the respective manager.
And also the fact that we had a large discussion about the fact that there cannot be 3 consecutive days of the offices being
Well,
closed.
the city would not be closed down on a floating holiday. We would still be able to provide service to our residents and visitors.
It's up to the department heads to make sure that they're adequately staffed during such periods.
Quite frankly, it could be on Thanksgiving week. It could be used a lot of different ways. So,
all right,
I'm glad to take care of the employees.
Go ahead, Linda.
I just want to clarify on the minutes to the Personnel Committee meeting. When the Personnel Committee meets at its next meeting, that would be the time for the committee to make a motion for a change to these minutes, if it so wishes to do so.
Okay, thank you.
Real property, please.
I'm up. Thank you, Mayor. Okay, real property met on March 4th. All members of the committee were present. Under citizen comments, Elaine Tessler spoke her concern about the drainage on 49th Avenue at the end of the street towards the ocean. The item was taken up in much greater detail discussion later in the meeting. Under old business, lease amendments for the Morgan Creek Grill. Jay Clark and Carla Pope, the director, distributed a new version of the proposed lease amendments for the Morgan Creek Grill. Jay Clark's plan was to invest $300,000 in the building over the next 5 years. His CPA was present, Peter Kent, and he went over the breakthrough needs of the operation for the Morgan Creek Grill. Basically, one of the things is the Morgan Creek Grill was showing expenses, and they highlighted their advertising for the restaurant, which also highlighted Isle Palms and the marina. Peter Kent presented a pro forma based on 2014. The break-even number for the Morgan Creek Grill is $4.9 million. If the net income clause was eliminated, the break-even number would be $4.1 million. Jay Clark said the leases were due to the amount of money that was put into the building for upkeep and repairs. Councilman-person Bergwolf asked the difference between repairs and upgrades like the outdoor bar area. Administrator Tucker noted that there's no listing of benefits to the city to change the lease. Peter Kent said the Morgan Creek Grill could manage revenue of a $5 million business. I asked about the amount of revenues the city would lose if the lease was changed, and when the contract is changed, there's usually benefits to both parties, and that did not be the case in the proposed lease as it stood right now. On the drainage of 49th Avenue, Director Carr gave a committee an overview of the work was done at the end of 49th Avenue. A new house was put in with a new septic system, and with that, with the amount of the system, it caused some flooding during the heavy rains. Director Carr basically worked out a plan to relieve the flooding after an engineer submitted a storm water management plan. Note this property is part of the scheduled upgrade for their next major plan for the for our infrastructure. As soon as the money is acquired, we'll be able to move forward. A resident did complain to the city administrator and Director Carr about the drainage plan and possible storm surge. The committee decided to take no action on the drainage and continue with the plan in place. Next, the committee discussed Moby mats at 28th Avenue. Basically, neighbors have put boards down to have easier access to that portion of to the beach. It's low there and it's prone to flooding. Unfortunately, the boards have become worn out and the city has removed them as a safety issue. Douglas Carr and Donnie Pitts will do further research on trying to identify the problem. One of it is the Moby mats are different width than the beach path. French Beach kiosk is the next item on the agenda. City Administrator Tucker felt that the beach kiosk was getting shop-worn and very little use. She felt that Isle Palms should look at artwork. Councilperson Bergwolf liked the idea of benches in the area, and since the Isle Palm is in our budget process, we are going to look at several options and come back to the committee to review. I made a motion that talked about replacing the council chairs. These chairs are kind of been here for about 20 years, if not. Nobody even knows when they were purchased.
It just feels that way.
Most of them are beat up, rough on the back, and sometimes we sit back and fall over. Anyway, we're looking at moving forward is looking at chairs and put that in the budget for next year. Okay. Anyway, the city also went through the budget process as other committees. The committee did, and the next meeting is set for Wednesday, the 8th of April at 5:30 p.m.
Very good. Questions for real property? You got your hands full. Moving on, you have no meeting from accommodations tax. That's tomorrow. Tomorrow? Is that right?
Yes.
It's a new month. New month already. Jeez. You had the minutes from zoning appeals. You had the minutes from planning commission. While we're on planning commission.
Question on the planning commission minutes.
Okay.
It appears that their discussion about the tree ordinance as far as having an impact on a septic system.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I think it's great that the Planning Commission is addressing this. My concern is that the city worked very long and hard over a number of years to put together a fairly effective tree ordinance to protect our beautiful canopy on the island. And I'd like to make sure that we maintain that, obviously changes can be made, but I think it's very important to maintain the quality of our tree ordinance as much as possible, because once you make some tweaks and do some things, unfortunately, some unavoided consequences can develop, which would be negative. So I'd like to take that into account for the Planning Commission.
Douglas is still conscious out there.
He didn't write it down, though. I noticed that.
He
Yeah,
heard your
all right.
comments. But you've all received copies of the comprehensive plan as drafted, coming to us from the Planning Commission. My proposal was to have a workshop later after we get further into the budget. Councilman Friends would like to have the workshop sooner. So I thought we'd discuss it here as to whether we pull it ahead or what do we do?
I guess the primary question would be, is there anything in the comprehensive plan that would be needing us to budget money for it next year?
This is just an update to the comprehensive plan, so it's not a material change that I know of.
That's correct.
It's always a good refresher. I want to have the workshop.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, I think the workshop is great, and I want to do that, but I really think we have a special meeting set up for the budget next month already. We have our other committee meetings. I'd like to see us get the budget, put it to bed. It was an 11th hour final thing in the end of June, the last minute thing. I'd like to make sure we devote our time and energy to getting the budget wrapped up and put to bed and follow our schedule as much as possible. So I'd like to push the comprehensive plan meeting until after we have the budget finalized.
Well, that would put us into June, but I'm thinking of sometime in May to have...
Yeah, I'm fine with that, as long as but hopefully
But if we have first reading on the 28th of April, we could then have a workshop maybe the first week of May. Do you have a calendar, Andy?
I do.
I wanted to ask Sandy if she had any specific
No, I
items,
just
wanted to get on with it.
I just thought that it would be good to have an idea of what our comprehensive plan is as we're budgeting. Maybe that's
Well,
not
and
needed.
I think I'll take Douglas's advice. I don't think there's anything material in it that will affect this year's budget. It may affect the budget capital plans for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. We've already got next year's capital plan pretty well scoped. So I think if we had something in early May, I think that would be certainly adequate to keep going on the budget and still interact with the Planning Commission.
Mr. Mayor, I tend to agree. I think pushing it May would be fine, get the budget behind us, but the only thing I see that I read in the plan that really is going to affect us financially, which we're preparing for, is the 1%, accommodations for beach. That's the biggest thing that we've got that looks like it's up and down all of Isle Palms right now. Is erosion is not just at the north end of Isle Palms, but it's down at the south end too. So anyway, that's the one financial thing that I see in there.
But before the committees establish a date, we ought to pick a date and get it on the calendar so that one, because otherwise the committees crowd the first 2 weeks and then we're pushed back into later time. So
do you feel
you have a May?
Do you feel comfortable we'll have the budget wrapped up by then?
I think we'll have we should have first reading by the 28th, and I would be, there should be very little detail left after that. Where's May?
Here's May.
Week of the 4th or week of the 11th.
You need to make it earlier rather than later.
Right. You want to find it. Does anybody have their calendars with them? Week of the 4th mean anything to anybody?
It's good for me.
Monday. Monday, May 4th.
4th
May 4th is a Monday,
Is a
right?
Monday. I don't know if
I
people
can't
like.
be here Monday.
Mondays are no good?
How about a 5th? Do I hear a 5th?
Go for 5?
I won't be here the whole week.
You're gone all week, so we'll push it to next week.
I'm going to be gone the whole next week.
All right, so
What about?
I think it's important
what
that
about
we have
April
council.
the 30th? What about April the 30th? Thursday, April 30th? What's over there? court,
We have livability court, but.
so
We
we
could-
would
we
have to
could-
move it upstairs.
We can move upstairs or
Or
could
to the
could
fire-
go to the rec center.
or the rec
Oh,
center.
Gene just falls with it. What's wrong with anybody have
April
the 30th?
Looks good to
Are
me.
you around that week?
April 30th?
Sold.
All right, 30th.
What time?
When do you normally meet with the planning?
4:30 on that following Wednesday.
So we're going to ask for them to have a special meeting with us on the 30th and 5:30? You guys good?
Mm-hmm.
5:30 good?
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. I think we need to get through all that. Okay. Getting on, no bills, turning the page. You have in your package a proclamation. This is a proclamation where we would take a position to oppose House Bill H. 3490. This is something that I think you're familiar with. This is the bill that's before the legislature right now dealing with business licenses. The proclamation highlights what the impact would be on the city. Would lose, well, all cities would lose somewhere between 20 and 50% of their revenue stream.
I second it.
Motion second, okay. We don't need to read it, I think you've all read it.
Yes.
All in favor of supporting this proclamation, of opposing the legislation and supporting the proclamation, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, moving on. All right. You have another proclamation in your package, not necessarily in paper order. This is a proclamation, whereas People Against Rape, City of, what am I reading here? It says City of Charleston.
No. There should be one that is,
Well, anyhow, there'd be we will construct the appropriate proclamation with this.
yeah, we do have one.
I think it's worded correctly.
Oh, it's just me reading it first. It's just a whereas.
Right.
So, you've read the proclamation, it would be taking a position in supporting those against rape. Yeah. How can you be for it?
Second.
Well, anyhow, you've read it. I think it's an important thing. We should not remain silent any longer and stop the violence. So, motion and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. The other item, two other items in your package. One has to do with Senate Bill 139. This is a bill generated by, again, Senator Clary from, I mentioned before, Murrells Inlet. This has to do with the OCRM's and management of the Beach Management Act. This in particular, I would move that we support Senate Bill 139. It has some implications, but not significant implications. The one that you've read about and probably know about, the most significant one here is actually the baseline move. It would restrict, it would peg the baseline to where it is now, or as of July, and prohibit the movement of the baseline seaward based on either renourishment or accretion over time. And there are other provisions in here having to do with the constructions of groins, allowing the constructions of groins under certain approved conditions, etc. This all developed out of the Blue Ribbon Committee that met, must be 3 or 4 years ago, and nothing's ever happened. And then this came forward. So I would move that we support Senate Bill 139.
Second.
And seconded. The only other point, just for clarity, there is a House bill, and I don't remember the number, and I forgot to bring it with me, that is different than the Senate bill, that is more restrictive and more broad than what the Blue Ribbon Committee proposed, and so I would propose we stay with this Senate bill and see it ridden through. So, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And hopefully last on our hit parade, you have before you a recommendation to consider as a city-sponsored event, Sentinel Swim Run Challenge on May 3rd. As you read through the details from the National Guard, this is about 25 individuals that will take up swimming at the county park, etc., but at some point during the morning, they will run down the beach. I think they're going towards Breach Inlet, is that correct? Is that the...
That's my recollection.
Is that it? Yeah. And run back. And they expect to require no services from the city and expect to be self-contained and not tread over the tourists that are on the beach at that time.
It has been approved by the county park.
And the county park is moving forward with it. So I'll move we consider this as a city-sponsored event.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, may I ask a question?
Please.
Just out of curiosity, I mean, this past week, I've seen a lot of, looks like military personnel running along the roads with backpacks on. Anybody know anything about what was been going on, or?
We used to have one individual a couple of years ago. He used to be in training carrying a full.
Well, this was like a
full pack.
troop.
Several of them.
Yeah.
Oh, this is-
Like that. It's a lot of them.
I'm not out late at night like
Okay.
you, so I don't see them.
It's daytime, but still.
Oh, okay.
Just curiosity.
Maybe they're in training for this, who knows? I mean, all right, no other subjects?
They ran in the bridge run, too.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're out of here.
Now, you used to be able to get done these in an hour.
I know it, I was...